Hello, I'm Dr. Carolyn Eaton, and this week in health, we're going to talk about face masks and face coverings. Since many of our stay-at-home orders have been relaxed, a lot of people are going out, going back into public, getting haircuts, going to restaurants, and it is even more important now that more people wear face masks and face coverings to help reduce the spread of the virus. Now, how does this work? How do the face mask and face coverings help? Well, first and foremost is that if a person who is sick is wearing the face mask, when they're breathing, they're not able to breathe out the virus. And a lot of people don't know they're sick. About 25% of all COVID-19 cases, people don't have any symptoms or have such minimal symptoms, they don't realize they have the virus. Now, let's say you're at work and you've got a lot of coworkers, you're in a very enclosed environment. Well, say one of your coworkers is one of those people that tends to spit a lot when they talk. We'll just call them Spitty. I happen to be one of those kind of spitty people, so I'm quite cognizant that I do it. And Spitty's getting excited, he's talking to you, and one of those globules goes across the desk, goes across the cubicle, and lands on your shirt, on a surface, and maybe on your face. Well, unfortunately, if Spitty is one of those people that doesn't know he's sick, that macroparticle, that globule, is a freight train full of virus and can contain tens of thousands of copies of the virus. Now, you go through, you rub it off, you rub it off your shirt, whatever. Well, now it's on your hands. Or if you rubbed that and then a couple minutes later you're going to rub your nose, well, now you've just put it on your face and you've inhaled it. And as I said, that's many, many copies of that virus. It takes about 3,000 copies of a flu virus to get the flu, and that's an average. Some people much, much less, some people a lot more, but in general, it's about 3,000 copies. And so that macroparticle just had tens of thousands of copies on it. So when you rubbed your face, you just likely infected yourself. So that's one issue. The other is even if he's not and really pushing it out 5-6 feet like that, when we're just breathing, we have these aerosolized particles of breath, of fluid, of spit, saliva. And these particles will hang in the air for a few feet and then land. And they land on any surface around us. Well, those regular sized particles, those carry several hundred to up to 1,000 copies of the virus. So wherever they land, they're now coating those surfaces with the virus. And so Spitty's computer, his desk, the wall of his workstation, all of that is now basically covered with virus. And you're standing there holding on the edge of his cubicle, again, wipe nose, whatever. And again, now you're exposed. The smallest of the virus particles are something we call microparticles. And those would be like a carload full of virus. That'd be a few copies of it, maybe up to 50 or so copies of the virus. But these particles are so small, even wearing the face mask is actually not going to stop most of those from getting through, just as we breathe in and out. So those particles will actually hang in the air for a very long time. They can hang in the air for hours. And so if you do get around a cloud of them, yes, even those microparticles can be enough to get you sick. But if we can keep down the other ones, it's a smaller dose, and so you're less likely to get sick. So what happens when Spitty gets a mask on? Well, Spitty gets a mask on, and those macroparticles definitely can't get through. Those are huge. They're not getting through even a cloth mask, which has larger pores than medical masks. If he has a surgical mask on, which is my little blue mask, which I'll show you here in a second, most of the particles are not going to get through, and even the regular respiratory particles are not going to be able to get through. The microparticles, unfortunately, will still be out there. So Spitty gets his mask on. That globule that just projected while he was talking stays in the mask. His regular breathing is staying in the mask. So now we're only dealing with those microparticles, which I said are much lower amounts of virus, so they do hang in the air for longer periods of time. Keeping good air circulation in your place of business is very good, because that will help keep them from being able to concentrate in one area. Unfortunately, they still will eventually settle out, but that time has been several hours, and so at that point, they're less able to be in a concentrated area. Now, if you're outside and you're able to maintain 6 feet apart, that's a really good thing because, again, the regular particles aren't going to be able to travel that far. They can't get 6 feet. But the microparticles do come out. So you really want to make sure you're that far apart. If you're in the sunlight, then the sunlight will actually break down the microparticles. And so that's a really helpful thing, which is one of the reasons we don't need to wear masks as much outside if we can maintain a social distance. If you can't maintain social distancing, you still need to be wearing the mask. So that will help reduce the spread. I'm really encouraging people to do this because, quite simply, I don't want you to die. This is a very serious virus that has a much higher death rate than the flu, and unfortunately is affecting our vulnerable elderly at a very high rate. And so please make sure you take as many precautions as possible to keep yourself from getting sick and also keep some of those vulnerable people from getting sick as well. Now, the best way to put on a mask, take my glasses off for a second. So, I already have mine pre-tied. Mine's an older one. So kind of go through, put it around. You want to make sure, get that around to the back, very snugly put it around your nose and under your cheeks. Lower edge, I have a tie one as I said. You want to make sure it's nice and snug again so that you don't have very much gapping around. There's always going to be a little bit, unfortunately, on these kinds, but there'll be much less because those little gaps, again, can allow in the virus. So you want to make sure you do that. If you're a glasses wearer like me, when you put it on, you want to make sure your glasses go over the top of the mask. That way, you're less likely to have fogging up, which is kind of annoying. You're still going to have a little bit when you first put it on and have the first few breaths, but it'll be a lot less. Back on. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I hope this was helpful. And if you have any more ideas for this week in medicine, please leave your suggestions, and I will take this in consideration. And have a very happy, healthy, and safe week. And happy Mother's Day, because I'm recording this the day before Mother's Day. Take care.